everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Joey Evans.
And today we're taking a look at a horror-themed game called Stifling Dark. So
scared. Scary.
Okay, here's the thing. I saw Stifling Dark at a convention last year or the year
Gen Con,
before.
right?
Yeah, and I was really excited about it.
Right? It looked good.
Because the whole concept of this is a hidden movement game. This is a one versus all game. But other people had these flashlight templates that they were shining around to find the other person. I hate horror movies.
Yeah.
But I like horror books and board games.
Yeah.
And I'm always hoping that one gives you that horrific feel.
Right.
And most one versus all games, everybody is hunting the one. In Stifling Dark, the one is hunting you.
At stalking, even.
Stalking you, yes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of rules for this game. So Joey's going to show us some of a bit about how the game works.
Yeah, very quickly.
And then we'll be right back.
Okay, we are set up for a game of Stifling Dark here. Now, this is going to be an extremely high-level overview. There's a lot of small intricacies with this game that would take forever. So pretty much, I'm just going to tell you general gameplay on this. How to win, how to lose, all that fun stuff, and general movement ideas. But again, there's a lot of, as you can see, the setup, there's a lot of tokens, all these different icons and stuff. There's a lot going on, and a lot of it depends on the scenario and the adversary that you are going to use. For instance, right now, we have got 4 players set up. I've got one of the player cards here. Those are set up in the starting area here. And then we have got the adversary, the butcher. And we are also set up in the sawmill, which is one of the sides of the map. The other one is the amusement park. But they do recommend you starting off with the sawmill. First off, how do you win? How do you lose? You win if you're going to gather all these. You have your initial objective over here. You are going to, first of all, try to collect evidence tokens. And then you're going to turn the evidence tokens in, and then you get to select an escape card. The escape card over here is going to give you kind of a unique way to escape from that scenario. And those are kind of random, which is kind of nice. Also, so the way you lose, everybody has a different lose condition here, but the butcher over there just has to kill one of you. So that's what he's going to try to do, is try to kill you. But now, what does that mean, gather evidence tokens? All right, so first off, you're going to start off with the investigator actions here. Let's take a look. You do have, everybody gets a player aid, and the player aid is going to show you exactly what you get to do. So first off, you can move. That's up to your movement points, which is in the top right-hand corner. And for example here, Aria is 4. So now you're going to move through here. Now, all of these are dim, all right? The ones that are solid are dim, and these are dark. So it takes 1 movement point to move into here, a dim area, but it will take 2 to go into dark. So you're going to go ahead and move 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you have evidence tokens, and you know that the evidence tokens are placed into all of these different rooms, okay? So now they're placed over here on the adversary's map. Now, this, of course, is hidden. Generally, there is going to be this board here that's going to cover, so you can't see that. But for the sake of this demonstration, I've got this out so you can see both. Obviously, this would make it a lot easier. So you've got these tokens here, and you're pretty much going to try to find those. The whole thing, though, is once you have got to shine a light and see those. You can walk right through those and not pick them up. You have to actually shine a light on them, which we'll get to how to do that in a moment. And that's kind of the crux, the exciting part about the game. So you got the movement points, and that's the move, which you're going to do most times. You can also sprint. Now, you can sprint. You'll notice here you can sprint or rest. All right? Now, sprint, you have got a sprint die. You would roll this die right here, and it kind of gives you extra movement points. Or you can take this time to rest. And if you do rest, you can go ahead and bring your stamina up. If you do choose to roll the sprint die, you're going to go ahead and take your stamina down by 1. Now, eventually you can get wounds by going down too far, and that is why you want to kind of, instead of run, sometimes increase your stamina. Next thing you can do here is you can interact. Now, interact means that you can take these tokens that you're going to come across if they're lit up over here. So you'll look over here, you have got the evidence tokens, which are the magnifying glasses here, but you also have points of interest. Points of interest are going to give you general items and cursed items, which the decks are right here. Now, you know the points of interest are within 2 of these points of interest on the map. So you know the general location of where they are, but you don't know exactly where they are. So you're going to be able to try to go and try to get those, because those are going to help you with your mission and to accomplish where you're trying to go. but again, you know the general area, you don't know exactly where. And there are also health tokens here. There's also ways to interact with the computer, and that's the way you kind of turn in evidence. And also there are light switches here and different areas across the board. And a light switch is going to act differently because once you turn on a room, you're going to go ahead and place one of these tokens in here. And say you're going to turn on the one in lumber shed, just like this. Then now this is all going to be lit. So anything in here is going to show up, including if the adversary is in there, or if one of these tokens is in there. For example, this right here would show up over here. So you would know where that is. But then that is going to falter and eventually turn off. It will not stay lit the entire game. So that's the interact that you can do across the board. You can also go ahead and open doors. There's several things you can do with doors. You can open them, close them, all this. Now, doors and windows have different styles of movement to get through. So that right there will hinder your movement. You can get through, you can open them or take a wound. The interact also lets you use an item or you can trade with an investigator that's there in your area. And then you've got your final actions. Now, these final actions right here, you're going to choose one of these or none of these. So you can spend one of your batteries to place your flashlight. That's going to be right here. So you're going to start off with 3. You can drop this down to 2 to place your flashlight. And you're going to kind of want to show, just like this, you're going to turn it anywhere you want to. All right, so that is going to make all of this bright. So anything in there is going to be shown by the adversary here, whether it's him, whether it's a token, but it also has to be completely enveloped, and one of these white lines has to make it to that circle. So you're going to follow one of these white lines, and does it make it? Yeah, so this one does make it. So just like that. So these white lines are what you're going to cover, but these will block. For example, you're going to go here. Of course, you're not going to be able to see past here. All right, so these do block line of sight. So you're going to go ahead and place that. And then your flashlight's going to stay on. It's going to help kind of give you a barrier where the adversary can't walk through. And also, again, it's the only way you can find your evidence tokens. And then you've got your interact. And I'm sorry, I did mention the computers before, but that's actually not not an interact. That is actually an involved action. So you see these 3 dots right here. That is an involved action. So in order to hand in those evidence tokens to a computer, you're going to need an involved action at the end of your turn. Now, all of these characters also have minor and major abilities. Minors are kind of one of those things that are passive. They can always be done. For example, hers is that she could take an involved action at any point instead of at the end. And your major ability is something you can do once per game. So all of the different players are very asymmetric. They all have their own abilities there. Okay, we'll go into wounds in a moment, but let's show you exactly how the adversary moves. Like I said, the adversary over here, we've got their board, and I think you can see it there. They're very small, but you've got everyone's position right here. He is keeping track of on his side, and also he keeps track of where he is. You can't see him here, but this is where he chose to start, right over here. So he has a movement. So first off, he can move up to 5 spaces, and he can also roll the sprint die if he would like to as well. So you're going to move around. Again, you're going to try to avoid being in a flashlight or somewhere that a flashlight could shine to kind of show where you are. Now also movement has special rules going through windows and stuff. You will make noise, so you'll kind of know where they're coming from. So that happens with the movement as the adversary as well as on the investigators. And you can also use your cards. You've got cards over here, you've got attack, and then you've got active abilities here. These are going to be are really the ways you do add wounds to them, which is the way you're going to kill the investigators. But then also they have a cooldown track that they're going to be placed over, like this one is a 2 cooldown. So we placed on this side, cooldown 2, so it's a while before you get to use it again. Now, what are some of these? For example, some of these are eviscerate. When adjacent to an investigator, give them the bleeding condition. If they already have the bleeding condition, then you're going to give them a face-up wound instead. And the face-up wound is going to be, again, how you get on their wound track, 4 wounds, and you have killed the investigator. So these are actually vary per game, not only per adversary, because the adversaries have different ones as well, but per game, these are going to be different. But these are the ways they are going to attack you. The Butcher also has stalk right here, which is pretty cool. You're going to be hidden, and the whole thing with stalk is you have to be within 8 spaces in line of sight. So you're pretty much going to kind of do that whole creepy look at them. You know, so that's pretty much the way you're going to scare them, and when you're going to give them a spine chill token, which is this, so they kind of feel that you're staring at them. And then also, once they already have one, then you can increase this just like this once per investigator, and then you take back their token. So you're going to try to make the stalk track go all the way to the end. And the reason why the stalk track is important is because some of these actually take stalk So it's kind of like you're going to kind of use those as resources to be able to use these cards. All right, so that's it. So the butcher's going to move around. These guys are going to move around trying to get the tokens, try to get items, and all this stuff. Now, at the end, you're going to go ahead with this initial objective here. You're going to go ahead and try to get all of your evidence tokens, and then you're going to turn them into the computer. And then from there, you're going to get some one-time rewards. Now, after that, you're going to then select an escape card. These escape cards right here, I'm not going to go too much into detail on these because these are kind of fun to get on your own. You're going to get one of these, like for instance, this North Gate. Then it's going to tell you where to place a saw token and the lockbox and all that. And that's going to give you the ways to actually escape and get away. And then, of course, the butcher wins if he kills one of you by getting you 4 wounds, wound, 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 and you're dead. And later you can actually turn into a spirit. And the first initial one, they say kind of no, just you're going to die, and that's the end of the game. But later there are spirits, there are ways to come back. So again, this is a very high-level overview. I didn't go into a lot of the detail on this because as you can see, there are a lot of tokens, there are a lot of adversaries, there are a lot of different people, so there's a lot of different intricacies with this. But this is a kind of a general idea of how the game plays and how that cool little flashlight mechanic does work.
Okay, so here's the thing, and this is really the biggest part of the review. I mean, we'll talk about this stuff, but this game does both thrills me and annoys me simultaneously.
Yes.
First of all, theme-wise, it is dead on.
So good.
You're like hiding in an amusement park. You are hiding in a lumber mill. And the hunter's killing, and each hunter's very different. The one's burrowing under the ground, the other guy's sneaking through the darkness. You know, and if you like that kind of horror, that's great. You know, at the end, you need to get out of the park. You need to call someone for help. Get on top of the Ferris wheel. And what's really cool is that when you get to a certain point and that you trigger the end of the game, you can decide, hey, we're going to take this guy out. Or we're going to go signal for help. Or we're going to do something else. I think there's like 3 different possible endings.
Right.
That's really cool. And the flashlight mechanism, you're like, oh, I see the guy. Ah, you know, that's also really cool. But
now, before we get to the but, I will say this is kind of, when I got this, I thought this is what I wanted. I love Final Girl. My downside of Final Girl is it's solo. So I thought this could be what, like the horror thing I'm looking for with the flashlight.
Okay.
You know? I'm like, okay, finally you have some great adversaries. You've got to move through there, and I was excited.
yeah, and the but is, the game is, first of all, the rule book is not particularly well done.
Rule books.
Rule books, yeah, you're right, because there's a book for the bad guy. And that mixed with, there's a lot of rules.
Yeah.
The theme comes at the cost of rules.
Right.
So if you're playing with somebody, and you're playing a certain adversary for the first time,
Yep.
you have to kind of pause the game at some point and be like, okay, so here's the 3 different things you can do. Here's the rule set for this one. Here's the rule set for this one. Here's the rule set for this one. How does FAQ work? And that's kind of a pain in the neck. Now, I think you could fight your way through that and get through all that. I mean, and you can. I know that. You can go through and play the game. But then that's mixed with the components, all the cards look the same. All the tokens look the same. And it's like, there's like 10 different decks of cards and things that you need to put together and a gazillion tokens, and I need this very specific token. And I'm like, they couldn't have made any of these not black? It's so hard to set up. It's so much to get to the table. It's so much work that really detracts from the experience.
It does, and it's so icon heavy too. There's so many different icons, so every time you're going back to the rule books, and that is another thing that I understand why there's 2 books, but you have to go back and forth deciding on, even if you're the adversary, you're like, well, is it described here or here? And you're jumping back and forth, and I don't like that. I really think there should be, the organization of this also is poor. You know, when you're looking for something, you don't know exactly where to find it. It's just, man, it's like it's almost there, but it needs so much streamlining. And to get this to the table is a chore. And then let it continue being at the table, because there are certain icons that will show up. And you're like, I'm not really sure what that is. That being said, I like what this does because, like Fury.
Oh, man, yes.
Yeah, because Fury of Dracula, your whole idea is just you want to stay hidden, you know, you want to kind of attack everybody. This one, you're just lurking. I love the whole...
Coming out of the darkness.
Right.
You know, and that's how horror movies are.
It is. And the stalking, the whole, like the bone chill, like they call it, when you just stare at somebody from ways away, and you're like, you just give somebody a token, you're like, wait, Where are you? I mean, that's really eerie.
I'm not sure. There's a few things, like I said, I think if I had play tested it before it was published for whatever reason, I would have said, man, you just need to cut a lot of this junk out.
Yes.
Because there's so many thematic things in the game, but at the end of the day, the coolest parts of the game are me coming out of or whoever it is, coming out of the darkness, and you're shining your flashlight, and you're using logic. You're saying, okay, if he was there, he can't be here.
Right.
But I also don't want to have to take the time to memorize all the rules of the bad guy if I'm the good guy.
No.
So I know what they can do.
Yeah.
And for the bad guy, they have to memorize all their rules and how the different endings work. And you could say, well, you could play it many, many, many times, but I think a lot of people are not going to because that first experience they're going to have trouble.
So fiddly.
But oh man, with better components, this could be one of the best horror games ever made.
I totally agree. Now, I will say I think it's best at 5 to the point to where I can't imagine it playing less because then tokens start to disappear, lesser player counts, and things like that. But I think it plays great at 5 because you do get that feeling once you get that flow.
I'd play a 4-player, with 3 people chasing. But after that, if I was playing with 3 people, I would say you're each controlling 2 people.
Right. Yes, exactly.
And with 2, I'd be like you're controlling all 4 people. There is some oddities to the game, too. The curse items sound cool. But the curse is usually so devastatingly bad that the good part isn't worth it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I would think they would be better if they were a good thing with a curse, but not like a debilitating curse. Sometimes I'm like, this curse is so bad.
Right.
That why on earth would I don't care what the weapon does that's good. Does it say win the game? No? Okay, then I'm not doing it.
Right. And that's, the items and stuff were kind of a letdown. And I mean, I like the whole idea of finding them. The general location of those points of interest. That type of stuff is really cool, where things are in a room, but also he knows things are there. There's a lot of back and forth that goes into that.
Yeah, and again, coming back to the components, though, keeping track on your little board is hard. That board's a little too small.
Oh, the little discs that show the people?
Yeah, there's just a little bit of stuff, and I get it. I get what the game is trying to do.
Right.
And I think it's almost there.
I do too.
I mean, I'll just tell you now, my rating for this is a 6.
Okay.
Because I don't hate the game. I like everything about it. I just think that the components and the rules and everything are conspiring against me to get it played.
I agree.
Like, I don't want to bring this to the table because I don't want to have to, just struggle through explaining it to everybody.
Yep.
And B, the components are just not that great. Except for the flashlight stuff. That's great.
Yep.
I love that.
So good.
And I wish that is a main mechanism of the game. I just wish they had cut off so much of this extra stuff. And yes, I know you lose a little bit of theme, but the flashlights themselves add theme. It's so cool to be like, okay, which way do I make this flashlight go? And the boards are big. They give you rooms to run around. I like the fact that you can turn the lights on in a building, and then they go out forever. But for that one brief moment, you're like, he's over there. Boom, the light goes out. And you're like,
flickering. Oh, I love
that's
that.
Enough, that's enough theme. And I don't even mind that they have 3 different bad guys.
Right.
But then each of those bad guys has different endings. And it's like, oh, come on, guys.
Escapes. Yeah.
It almost would have been better if they had packages like Final Girl in the sense where there was 1 bad guy in here. Or 2, maybe.
Right.
And then you could buy other ones separately. And maybe in the Kickstarter, for all I know, there is like 6 other bad guys. I don't know. But so for me, it's a 6.
Yeah, and then also, like with the bad guys, you have different attacks, different abilities. You have so much different things you can do. I'm coming a bit higher, 6.5. Like I said, it's almost there because I really want to like this. And to the point to where I think the components I can live with, if there's some sort of streamlined rule book, they say, listen, it was a bit too convoluted. Here's a very easier guide to go through and just to make it hit the table. Streamline this. Take it through sit down some players on this. Don't sit next to them and say, just try it. And you're going to get that. I really like the idea of this. I hope they don't give up on it because the idea is great.
But again, I know that the game's called Stifling Dark. But maybe for each of the bad guys, they have a red deck of cards or a purple deck. Yes.
Right.
You'd be like, oh, but it's not black. But oh my word, I had to look on the back sides and the front sides to figure out. It's just
little icons
messy.
in the corner. Yeah, I agree.
But my hopes for this company are very high. Their next game I'm definitely going to be very interested in because I thought they did well in the theme in this.
I agree.
Whatever their next game may be, I don't know what it is. So
yeah. I don't want to give up on this.
There you go, folks. That is Stifling Dark. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Joey Evans.
Woo, we're coming after you in the dark. No, we're not. I'm just kidding.
Turn your flashlight on.